Sicknick. Speaking to the motion.
Delegate Watts, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, in the Sicknick's family's statement following Brian's succumbing to a massive brain hemorrhage, they emphasized many details regarding Wednesday's events and the direct causes of Brian's injuries remain unknown. Our family asks the public and the press to respect our wishes in not making Brian's passing a political issue. Brian is a hero, and that is what we would like people to remember. They also wanted to be sure that we know Brian as the incredible human being they've lost. There really aren't enough kind words in any language to describe how sweet Brian was. He was truly a lovely, humble soul. We are missing him terribly. He was sweet-natured through and through. Everybody who met him adored him. He also loved his Dachshunds dearly, spoiling them and ensuring they got the best possible care. He loved his job with the U.S. Capitol Police and was very passionate about it. He also had an incredible work ethic. He was very serious about showing up to work on time and refused to call out sick unless absolutely necessary. He wanted to be a police officer his entire life, his brother said. He joined the New Jersey National Guard as a means to that end, and in doing so, he served his country honorably in both Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Desert Shield, of which my family is very proud. This is what his squad leader, Chief Master Sergeant Lance Endy said. After 18-hour days, Sicknick would be the last to turn in his weapon. And on below-freezing nights at a bare-boned airfield in Kyrgyzstan, he would cheer up the rest of the squad. Brian always had a smile on his face. Nothing shook him. Things would go terribly wrong. Everybody would be miserable, and Brian would be able to joke about it. When praised for going above and beyond, Chief Master Sergeant Endy said Sicknick would brush it off like it was no big deal, saying, "That's what we do." In 2008, Brian joined the Capitol Police with the same solid devotion and genuine concern for those around him. One account stands out, but I need to start with a colleague's observation that Brian's sharp sense of humor could be a bit of a, quote, ballbuster in debates with fellow officers on politics and sports. With that kind of reputation for give and take, throughout 2016, a Chief Pelosi staffer related, he and I regularly poked fun at each other at the metal detector. He jabbed, I gave it right back. Each assured the other their candidate would become president. The day after the 2016 election, she arrived despondent. Sicknick was waiting, not to joke or to gloat, but to console. He held me as I cried. He knew how hard it was going to be for me. Neither of us said a thing. No words needed to be exchanged. I knew that even though it was a celebratory day for him, he was going to hold me up. Officer Brian Sicknick believed in the honor of all who served in the Capitol. He lost his life trying to hold them up. Congressmen, staffers, fellow officers alike. On Wednesday, it was protecting them using his full law enforcement training. I watched the footage of lines and lines of law enforcement officers standing at attention as his casket passed. They were honoring the sacrifice of a fellow officer in devotion of duty. I saw those long lines with the perspective of my most impactful introduction to becoming public safety secretary. The week before, I attended the funeral of a slain state policeman. I will never forget witnessing tears rolling down the stoic faces of seasoned officers. Having this perspective was so important because it stood in stark contrast to knowing that the two biggest bullies in my high school class became police officers. Those men were not Officer Sicknick. Officer Sicknick rescued Dachshunds. He had no desire to intimidate. From childhood, Officer Sicknick desired to serve. Members of the House, before I close with his father's plea to all of us, I have to assume also one more observation about Officer Sicknick, that for this patriot, the reason for becoming a Capitol police officer was the fulfillment of a lifelong dream, was because it was defending the historic, symbolic heart of our democracy. I have to believe that he too took moments like two National Guard officers brought in afterwards, who were found just standing in the rotunda, looking up in awe. Like I did as a Hill staffer many years ago, taking my sandwich out to sit on the steps of the Longworth office building, just to look over at the Capitol and quietly absorb all of its meaning. A deep, abiding meaning that was desecrated. And Officer Brian D. Sicknick gave his life defending it. In a recent interview, his 82-year-old dad said he avoided talking politics with his son. But he went on, "If any good comes out of my son's death, I just hope that it stops all the lunacy that's been going on in this country." Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chairwoman Watts. Delegate Watts moves, when the House adjourned today, it adjourn in the honor and memory of Officer Brian Sicknick. Those in favor shall please rise. The motion is agreed to.